Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. So let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Entitled mother yells at school nurses for calling her when her son's insulin drops dangerously low. I'm a high school student, senior year, and I'm not the most careful person with what I eat, so I ended up getting food poisoning from eating leftover chicken that was sat on the counter all night that I just threw in the microwave. I didn't feel anything until I was in the middle of first period class. I thought it was my regular stomach pain, so I tried to just muster through it, until I felt nauseous, so I ended up going to the school clinic. When I entered, I noticed there were people in EMT uniforms surrounding a guy hunched over on a chair. I overheard them saying he was confused and not very responsive. I wasn't sure what was going on. I spoke to one of the nurses about my strong feeling of nausea, and they called my mom to come pick me up. So I was just waiting there in the clinic with a trash can in front of me. I heard one of the school nurses tell the EMT people that the guy is diabetic and didn't have his insulin checker. I can't remember the exact term, just know it was something like that, with him, and how he couldn't answer simple questions like what is your name, or where are you? I know a little bit about what they were checking because of Chubby Emu, so I knew that was a horrible sign. They had called his mom before I came in, so now they were just waiting. That's when I saw a very angry woman, entitled mother, walking towards the clinic. When she entered, I could feel the air change. Her mere presence felt disturbing and slimy. She began to berate the school nurse for calling her because she works late and sleeps during the day. She said the son constantly forgets to bring his insulin checker and snacks, and said it wasn't her fault. That's a phrase she repeated a lot during her rant. It's not my fault. She said he was 15 and had to take responsibility for his own medicine. Meanwhile, the guy was silently sitting there drinking a juice. She said she wouldn't be coming when they call anymore. That's when I got a text from my mom saying she was there, so I quietly got up, trying not to vomit or draw the attention of the entitled mother. My mom took me home, where I automatically ran to the bathroom. I have no experience with having diabetes, but the way that mother acted felt very wrong and uncomfortable. That mother definitely seems a bit self-centered. If her son needs to be better prepared going to school, that's obviously something they need to work out themselves. No one there cares whose fault it is. It's like she expects them to just not call her when her son is in danger. Standoff on a bridge. This happened when I was still a toddler. There is a bridge in my home country that was originally built for horse-drawn buggies. As a result, it's a one-way bridge that has 2 lanes of traffic. It took years of people driving off this bridge before traffic lights were put on it. This happened before then. My dad was making his way to his parents' house, with me and my mom in tow. I was fast asleep in the back when we approached this bridge, with one car quite far away. So my dad decided, cool, I'll just drive across. The other guy would have to wait less than a minute to drive on after us. Nope. This a-hole saw my dad get on the bridge and decided to treat it like a race. When my dad was well over halfway over the bridge, this guy finally makes it onto the bridge and demands my dad back up to let him by. My dad was very much telling him no, he was on the bridge first and had a longer distance to reverse to get off the bridge, while this guy didn't have very far to go to reverse, and did this on purpose to be an ass. The guy wasn't happy my dad wasn't moving, so my dad walked back to his car and switched it off. My dad also likes to buy newspapers for the day before setting out on these journeys. He visits his parents, talks with them for a bit, then sits there for 2 to 3 hours while I get to spend time with them, while he reads his newspaper. He winds down his window as he doesn't believe in using air conditioner, pulls out his newspaper, adjusts his seat to be more comfy, and started reading. It was early enough in the morning that no one else was on the road. It took an hour before another car finally came up to use the bridge, behind the a-hole. The a-hole at this point has been ranting and raving like a madman the entire time, so it forced my dad to put the windows up and the aircon on, and continued to read his paper. Literally, my dad had 0 fucks to give. I have never seen him angry. My mom, who has been with him for over 30 years, has only seen him angry once. The other driver gets on the a-hole's case, as he can see he is in the wrong, and a-holes don't want to admit it. A second and third car show up. The a-hole is now outnumbered, so he finally reverses off the bridge to let my dad pass. Entitled cyclist gets punched in the face. Both of my colleagues partially go the same route to work. One morning, traffic was going unusually slow. At some point, the lane divides into 3 before a traffic light. There it became obvious that a cyclist was slowing traffic down, as no car could overtake safely. A bike lane was included on the sidewalk. But the cyclist decided he likes the road better. By law, car drivers are required a minimum distance of 1.5 meters, or 4.9 feet, to overtake, and cyclists have to use the bike lane if there is one clearly marked. You can imagine this sometimes doesn't go as intended. My colleague needs to turn left at the traffic light, goes into the left lane, and then is the first one at the red light. The two other lanes are also packed with cars. In the mirror, my colleague can see the cyclist wriggling himself through the waiting cars and going right in front of the traffic light. Like someone just said, now this is going to be interesting. One driver gets out of his car, walks to the cyclist, and punches him right in the face without saying a word. As the cyclist tips over with his bike and hits the ground, the driver shouts, "For f***'s sake, use the bike lane." My colleague couldn't hear the response of the cyclist, if there was one. The driver then shouted, "If you note my license plate, you get another hit." My colleague then got the green light, so he couldn't get the follow-up. Our other colleague mentions that there is always one particular cyclist who refuses to use the bike lane. If it was him this time, nobody knows. Not saying it was the right thing of the driver to punch the cyclist, but the cyclist clearly provoked it. Edit: we're in Germany. Bike lanes have to be used if they are clearly marked with the sign. Cyclists in the road that don't follow traffic rules can seriously be scary sometimes. I've personally seen some cyclists that will ride in the road and want to be treated as part of traffic, but then they'll think that they can disregard the rules for whatever reason, like blowing through a stop sign at a four-way intersection while everyone else is stopping as they should and taking their turns, despite being in the road and being part of traffic. Like I said, nothing against cyclists in general. It's just some of them are scary and unpredictable and you just don't know what they're gonna do sometimes. Coworker did no work, then wanted a job reference from me. Not happening. Years ago, I was part of a programming team. One of the senior team members had been promoted beyond her abilities, due to work she had done some years before on a suite of software tools that everyone in the company was forced to use, despite them being much clumsier to use than most equivalent third-party applications. But that was her claim to fame, getting promoted for her contribution to mediocrity. She somehow felt that this entitled her to sit in her office with her feet on her desk, reading paperback novels all day, while the rest of us engaged in various programming projects. The company eventually went into a tailspin, and there were multiple rounds of layoffs. Our whole division got wiped out eventually. Some years later, I'm happily employed elsewhere. Ring ring goes the telephone. "Hello, this is Mr. McDonald," I said. "Good afternoon, Mr. McDonald. I'm Human Resources Guy with XYZ Company. One of your former coworkers, Miss Novel Reader, has applied for a programming position with XYZ Company and said you could give her a reference." "Oh, did she now? Fascinating. What would you like to know?" I ask. "How long were you and she in the same department?" "About 5 years." "Great. What can you tell me about Miss Novel Reader's work during that time?" "Well, nothing, I'm afraid. I never actually saw any," I said. "You were in the same department for 5 years and never saw any of her work?" he asked. "In 5 years, I never saw any work from her," I responded. Long pause. "Does that mean what it sounded like?" the HR guy asked. "Absolutely," I said. "Thank you for your time. Don't mention it." I defeated a Karen. I went into a gas station to buy some things, oblivious to some weirdly parked vehicles. When I came out, things appeared different. There was a short-haired white woman inside her SUV, driven by her husband, berating a black Amazon driver, in honky country. She was using her car to block him from leaving. She had convinced a tow truck driver to help barricade him in. He allegedly did something on the road that she thought was worth a mock lynching. I asked her, "What are you doing?" Meaningless BS response. I said, "Did you call the police?" She said, "No, but I should." And I told her to do it immediately or I would, and that she could call 911 or the police anytime she wants, for whatever reason, but that she is not allowed to detain people. At this point, the tow truck driver seemed to have an epiphany and left. She asked me, "What would you tell them?" And I said I would tell them, "There's a woman harassing an Amazon driver in a parking lot." I took a picture of her license plate in case it was needed later. She left, screaming a bunch of incredulous stuff. I told the Amazon driver he should just get out of here. He said he just wanted to go home and was afraid the police were coming. The dude was terrified. Honestly, it doesn't even matter what this guy may have done in traffic. The fact that this woman and the tow truck driver didn't even call the cops really just goes to show that all they wanted to do was harass this poor guy. Harassing is probably putting it mildly too. Trapping someone with your car is definitely beyond harassment. I represented myself in court against Utah State Patrol and won. My motorcycle was stolen. Thankfully, I got it back, but severely damaged. It took a year, but I got it all fixed up. Honestly, looking good as new. I was psyched. I took it for a ride and I get pulled over 1 mile in. Speeding. She was running well, what can I say? I knew I was likely going 10 to 15 miles per hour over, as it's real easy to do on 2 wheels, so I calmly accepted my fate. Cop comes up, claims he clocked me going 98. Speed limit was 65. And a $450 ticket. There was no way. Realizing at this point he may not have actually even lasered me, I respectfully told him I disagree and asked to see the speed gun. "Oh, I think I cleared it," was his response. In the squad car that records everything all the time. Immediately, my thought was, cool, see you in court. Like 6 months later, I show up to my court date and the cop actually shows up. Nerves set in a little bit. Judge walks in, all rise. Everything was surprisingly official. I made my case, arguing with no proof how was I to just take this officer's word on my alleged speed. They actually played the dashcam footage on a TV. Me passing and seemingly no record of 98 miles per hour. Then me asking and him declining. Ultimately, the judge ruled there wasn't enough evidence and dropped it. In making my case, I did admit to speeding, so I was given the lowest speeding ticket possible, $30. Then I got a burrito. Was a good day. Alright guys, thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So I'm out of here, have an awesome day everyone, and I'll see you next time.